This is HRC for March 19th. We'll kick this off. Avery?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just a few reminders for this evening's hybrid meeting. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. When the chair calls for public comment on an item, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak during public comment. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn on your camera to provide your comments. And then the last reminder is that the primary format for accessing or participating in this meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored. If you have trouble, the meeting can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. That'll turn the meeting back over to the chair.
All right. Just receive communications.
I have no extra communications for you this evening.
Okay. Disclosure of ex parte communications. Anybody? Okay. Declaration of abstentions.
So this evening, item 2, 801 Alabama Street. We are writing the National Register nomination for that property, so I'm going to recuse from that project.
Okay.
And item 3 is a project that we're working on also, so I'll recuse myself from that.
Okay. Any committee reports, updates?
We have no committee report updates this evening.
Wow, flying through this. All right, consent agenda. Has everybody reviewed number 1, the minutes from?
Yes, and I'll make a motion to approve the Historic Resources Commission meeting held on, the minutes for the HRC meeting held on February 19, 2026.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Dearborn?
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley?
Aye.
Commissioner Klein?
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan? Aye. Passes unanimously. Item number 2, confirm the design review applications.
I will move that we confirm the attached design review applications, which have been administratively reviewed and approved by staff.
Okay, second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn?
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley?
Aye.
Commissioner Klein?
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan? Aye. Passes unanimously. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Online, maybe? Nope. Okay. All right. Public hearing items number 1, HRC 260036 at 1704 Tennessee Street.
My mouse.
No, I'm trying to turn the camera.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, I don't have control of the mouse.
You're up now.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for this city. This evening, your first item is 1704 Tennessee Street. This is a certificate of approval request because the property is located in the context area of the Thaddeus D. and Elizabeth K. Prentice House at 1645 Kentucky Street. This is showing the project location here. The existing structure faces west. The listed property is in the block to the north and faces east. And this is the structure under consideration. This is a demolition request with a replacement structure request. The intention of the current property owner when they bought the property was rehabilitation, and they even went as far as going ahead and building the garage on the property that you saw a while back, and when they got ready to start the rehabilitation, when some of the engineering and the work came back, it was recommended to them that they should apply for demolition. Staff did a walkthrough of the structure, and unfortunately, I would have to agree with the assessment that the property is not listed and not eligible for tax credits. This is just a context review, and so we use those standards that are in Chapter 22. So we'll walk around the structure a little bit. This is the main or the primary elevation. The interesting thing about this structure, and we'll look at the Sanborn maps in a few minutes, but when you're looking in the basement, it is true that this portion of the structure was likely built first, but this addition was built very soon after the construction, because by the time the structure shows up on the Sanborn maps, this addition is already there. But when you're looking at the foundation and in the basement, it appears like it is an addition. And these are those Sanborn maps, starting with 1918. If you'll see here in the red circle is the structure, and that addition is there, as well as a back porch addition. Again, in the 1927 and the 1949. And there was a little bit of discussion in your staff report about the development of this block. It's a little bit different. It was never platted, and so the development just kind of took place by land sale. And it had some similarities with the platted properties to the north, but that was also a little bit of a unique plat. So it kind of developed organically, and you can see by 1949 on Kentucky Street, you did have a similar development pattern, but if you can recall what those original town site plats look like, this is not that same type of development pattern. So it is a very unique block. Looking at the side of the house, this would be the south elevation, and in the back you can see the garage that was approved. And this is the rear elevation, no, I'm sorry, this is also the side elevation, or the south elevation. And this is the rear elevation, showing that addition of the sleeping porch and what would become the kitchen underneath. And this gives you a little bit better view of that addition, and you can start to see some of the issues going on with the structure and the foundation failure here and also here. And then just continuing that walk around. It does have some original windows. Most of them are in poor shape, I would say, and would need significant repair. The other thing that's noted in your staff report, if you'll notice these plugs, and the applicant may be able to tell us which one it is. Typically, when you see plugs like this all over a structure, and it's not just in one place, it was either termite precautions or abatement, or insulation was blown in. So regardless of either one, you now have all these plugs that in a rehabilitation project you would have to account for. This is the best. We didn't have electricity in the basement, and this is one of the best shots that I could get, but you will see there was termite damage. There's also wood rot and structural inefficiencies, and I believe that the structural report was included in your packet. This is showing you at one time they did try to block in the foundation walls. The actual foundation walls kept pushing, and so they pushed the reinforcement out as well. So what they were trying to do wasn't addressing all the pressure and the conditions and was not successful. And then this is just giving you a general idea of the floor. Unfortunately, it has an incredible staircase, and the baluster and the spindles and everything are in really good shape. But then when you start looking around, the floors have been refinished. Some places they look really good, in other areas they're totally patched up. So probably about half of the floor would be salvageable. Most of the flooring upstairs would probably not. This also gives you a sample of the very simple trim that was in the house. And here's just another photo showing the door surround trims, and the baseboards were just simple flat baseboards. And here you can start seeing some of that structural damage, how it started compressing and causing those walls to be out of plumb and shifting the whole walls of the structure. This is the proposed new construction. It will also face Tennessee Street to the west. It's a little bit larger than the existing structure. The existing garage will stay, and the new structure will be constructed in front of it with setbacks that are appropriate for the district. This is the primary elevation. As you can see, it's a very simple structure, but it does have a front porch. The window ratios are correct for the style of the building. It does have a gabled roof. It has lap siding. The materials are compatible with the context area and the listed property. This is showing the side of the structure. On the north, again, you have windows that are taller than they are wide, and even though you have a deck, it's placed toward the rear of the structure and is not highly visible from the street. This is the rear of the structure. It will have a small porch, and there's that deck again. But again, the window sizes are, for the most part, appropriate. We do have these modern windows here, but that is on the rear of the structure. And this is the south elevation of the structure. This fenestration pattern's a little different than what you would see on a historic structure, but the windows are correct in proportion and size, and where it starts to change a little, excuse me, where it starts to change a little is toward the rear of the structure and will not be highly visible from the street. In your staff report, it talks about demolition of primary structures in context areas. And the charge for the Historic Resources Commission is to evaluate the integrity, originality, craftsmanship, age, or historical significance. And staff lined that out for you in your staff report, and we'll be happy to discuss that if you have questions. Because of the condition of the structure, and staff found no additional historic significance for the structure, staff is recommending the demolition, and also because they have a compatible replacement. So it does meet Standard 5 in Section 22-507. So staff is recommending that you find the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22-507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22-508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
So you mentioned some of the wood interior. Do you know whether any of the wood, like the staircase railing and any of the trim and maybe part of the floor, I don't know, if any of that will be saved and either used in the new building or donated to restore?
You would need to speak with the applicant about
Okay.
Do you have a question on materials? It calls for a metal roof over the porch. Those are okay now? And
Well, it is a context review. There are metal roofs in the area, and maybe not specifically to this context area, but it is a small piece.
Yeah.
And there were historically metal roofs on porches. Usually where staff has significant issue is when it's for the entire structure.
okay. Just thought I'd ask. Right, any other questions?
So Lynn, is the zoning R3 here? Do you recall? And so I guess the question is, are 2 units allowed? And do you know, is this intended to be a 2-unit dwelling?
I will let you speak with the applicant,
Okay.
but I believe the owner and her daughter are going to
Okay,
share the
gotcha.
structure. It is 2 units, and 2 units are allowed by the
Okay.
zoning district.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you, Lynn. Is the applicant present? I think perhaps online?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris Cunningham here from CT Design and Development. Thank you for hearing us, and thank you, Lynn, for the presentation. I think we've got a pretty simple little project here. It's a great little project. It's very fitting for the neighborhood. We're not trying to push any boundaries with this one, so I think it'll fit in just great. It is a structure that is definitely in need of replacement, and I'm here with Aretha, the owner of the home, who, yes, I believe it will be 2 units, and it'll be a sort of set up as a co-living type situation with her daughter. I can't really speak yet to the salvaging of any of the existing materials. We really have not gotten that deep into the design yet. So that is certainly something we may consider as we move forward. I guess that's really kind of it. I'm happy to stand for any questions or answer anything else that you might be willing to ask.
Questions? Thank you for the nice, complete submittal. Your drawings are
You're welcome.
clear. Thank you. Is there any public comment? Nope, no, nobody online. So let's bring it back to the commission for questions, concerns. Demolition's really always a hard thing, but I think the proposed project is a very compatible design, makes it the demolition less painful. I really like how you broke up the mass. It's very appropriate. So thank you for attention to detail on the design.
We tried.
All right, then
I have one question, actually, for the applicant. This is Commissioner Cunningham speaking. In one of the drawings here, let's see, on 36 of the agenda packet, the southeast-facing view of the proposed structure, I don't know if this is, it's probably, hopefully it doesn't actually do this, but it looks like the driveway kind of runs over the window wells for the basement windows. I'm assuming that's just kind of like a design error and that the driveway isn't actually going to like go over those, because that just might be a hazard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's probably just a little bit of a graphical error. So
I'm trying to look at it where the driveway, you know, appears on Google Maps, and it looks like there is enough space over to it. I'm not gonna, you don't need to resubmit it, just to slide it over, but
okay.
Just
Duly
bear
noted.
that in mind.
Yeah, the egress windows on actually both elevations, side elevations, on the drawings do make it look like they're,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the windows on the south side, we were really trying to just get light down there into the basement, but the egress is on that north side.
And so Lynn, can egress window wells be closer to the property line than the setback?
Yes, egress is one of the exceptions that can
Okay.
extend into the setback, but I believe, let me pull their site plan up.
It looks like there's two of them, and one of them is extending over a tiny bit. Is there a limit on how far it can?
I believe you can go 3 feet. Avery, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right.
But on the north, if you look at the site plan, they are not, that one is just barely into the side yard setback, but we did measure that and it does meet code.
Okay.
And then on the south, even though it shows them, that's already, if you notice from the drawings, a paved area. So they'll be working with that, but
Gotcha.
those are
Okay.
outside the setback.
Okay. So if they had to, it could slide a little bit north.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Also, below-grade window wells are allowed to encroach into a required setback as long as they are 3 feet from all property lines.
Oh, okay. So it's 3 feet from property line. Okay. Great.
all right. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to find that this proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22-507, and design criteria in Chapter 2, Section 22-508, and issue a certificate of approval for the proposed project.
I'll second.
Second? Okay. Seconded by Dearborn. Hey, Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. I need to take a quick break.
And I also want to note that Commissioner Hernley has left the room.
Thank you. I'd be happy to stand in Brenna's stead.
Oh, here, Brenna's.
Oh, she's coming back right now.
Problem solved. Thank you.
So the next project is 801 Alabama Street. This is the demolition and new construction of an accessory structure, and the request is for a certificate of approval. The property is actually listed in the Lawrence Register of Historic Places as the Louise and Eva Polar residence, but when the property was listed, the garage was not assessed for eligibility. It was not considered contributing to the property at that time, and so it is not a listed property in and of itself. However, because it is on a listed property, we use the Secretary of the Interior standards as required by Chapter 22. This is the project location. This is the Polar residence here, 8th Street to the north and Alabama Street to the east. This is the primary structure. And this is the accessory structure. The county has a date on this structure for about 1920, and it does have some indication that that is an appropriate construction date, but it has seen a lot of alteration over time. It looks like it's had some replacement boards for the siding and also some of the other areas. And then this is a view from the alley. And this is a view that this is what's facing Alabama Street. As I mentioned, this would be Secretary of the Interior Standards 2, 6, 9, and 10 apply to the project. And then also in Chapter 22, it states that accessory structures should be appropriate and compatible with the architectural features of any primary structure. So this is the existing site plan. If you'll notice, this is the existing garage here. It's a little hard to see on the slide, but you should be able to see it in your packet. There's a dotted line for where the proposed garage will be. It will be pulled back off of the property line. One thing, and we'll look at a photo here in a minute, but one thing to take note of is because of the placement of the accessory structure, it will be visible from the sidewalk and the Alabama Street right-of-way. And this is a little bit close-up of the site plan for the structure. You'll notice here it's just a very simple rectangle with the door is going to face to the north. They will utilize a drive area here, and what you see here is the porch. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the distance will be between the new structure and the existing primary structure. It's a very simple, appropriate garage, like I mentioned. It's a simple rectangle. It has a gabled roof. It has simple double garage doors. It has lap siding. The overall height from grade to the peak of the gable is 21 feet. This would be the alley side of the structure. And then on your right is, I got myself turned around, I'm sorry. On the left is the east-facing elevation. So this is what would be visible from Alabama Street. And this is taken from our friend Google. And you can see here in the background is the existing accessory structure. And then just, if you're on the sidewalk, And so it is larger than this structure, what they're proposing, but the materials and the size and the massing and the scale are all appropriate for the listed property. This is not to scale, but it's just to kind of give you an idea for compatibility. They are using the lap siding, which is on the primary listed property. They're using some shingles and the Gable dormer, which you find on the primary structure as well. And so staff is recommending that you find the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22-508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions? Nope. Okay, thanks, Lynn. Is the applicant present?
I don't see anybody.
Yeah, I don't see anyone
Not
either.
online either.
That's odd.
Okay, then, public comment. Yeah, I think that's a first that the applicant hasn't been here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, but,
It's not,
well, but the homeowner or somebody else from the firm or,
yeah.
yeah.
It's happened before.
Yeah, okay. Well, and it's Arch and Gable, so it's not even Stan's not designing it. He's only working on the nomination for it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, are there any comments or conversation to have?
It looks nice. It matches the main building.
Yeah. And they did a good job documenting the existing, so
And the polar
Great.
name,
is there
important.
a motion?
I will move to find that this proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22-507, and the design criteria in Chapter 2, Section 22-508, and issue a certificate of approval for this project.
I'll second.
Okay, Klein seconds. All right, Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye, and Hernley abstains. So passes unanimously with one abstention?
501.
Oh, 501. Thank you. All right, item number 3, HRC 260038 at 1423 and 1433 Ohio Street, plus 1430 and 1432 Louisiana.
So this is a request for demolition and new construction. It is a property that is bounded on 3 sides by the University of Kansas. It is located in the Oread Neighborhood Overlay District in UC2, which is for high density, and subject to the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. And just to give you a little background on the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines, when we went through that extremely lengthy process on the guidelines, in our public meetings, one of the things we discussed is universities need density to support them. And so if we were going to have density, where did we want that density to be? And this is one of the areas in this UC2 high density where if you look at the guidelines, it kind of separates it out. It says if they're not if structures aren't in the period of significance, they can be considered for demolition. You can combine lots to achieve the square footage you need for new construction at a higher density. So although most of the time you will not see me up here supporting anything that combines lots and tears down structures, this is a really unique area in the neighborhood, and it was part of overall of that neighborhood decision to keep some areas like north of 9th Street low density, and then to have the higher density adjacent to the university. So we'll look at the map a little bit, and you'll see the high density for the overlay district is in the purple. Our subject properties are here outlined in the blue with Ohio Street here to the east. There are actually 4 parcels, but there are 5 buildings. And this is just to give you that visual of the opaque color that's kind of a purple color. That's university property. And so you'll see that this is totally on 3 sides covered by university property. The property to the east is a fraternity house. And then let me go back. If you'll note here, there is a parking lot directly to the north of the structure, and then to the south of the structure you also have parking area and a university building. Just to try to keep myself straight when I was writing the staff report, I just identified the buildings so we didn't get into a big conversation about parcels versus lots versus how this has been divided over time. It is interesting to note that Louisiana Street was taken in by the university, and so that was no longer a city street, as is Alumni Place, also university property. And so the building number 5, while it has a Louisiana address, it does not face Louisiana Street. It faces to the east. So building 1 is the building furthest to the north at 1423 Ohio Street. Building 2 is the building that staff spent the most time on in your packet. It's the south building on this parcel, and it was constructed during the period of significance and has significant architectural detailing. Building 3 was constructed outside the period of significance at 1433 Ohio Street, and it is not character defining for the overlay district. Building 4, similar to Building 3 in design and also in construction timeline. These 2 buildings are really good examples of what was being built at this time in Lawrence, with the faux mansard roofs and the little Juliet balconies and all those nice details, but they weren't constructed during the period of significance for the overlay. Building 5 was actually constructed during the period of significance. It's a very unique structure, and we'll look at some photos of it. But as I've already mentioned, it faces east, which is into this parking lot. It really doesn't have a presence on Alumni Place, which is not a major city street. And it doesn't face Louisiana, which is where it was addressed. This is building 1. This is the north side on the left-hand side of the screen. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the primary elevation of the structure, all wooden balconies in a good degree of disrepair. And then there is a drive that goes into a parking area back here. This is Building 2, or Emory Apartments. If you'll notice, as I mentioned, this is the building staff spent a lot of time on. It has some significant Art Deco detailing that we don't have a lot of. in Lawrence. The applicant found the historic announcement for the apartments, and they were garden apartments, and they did face to the north and had a garden area in front of the apartments. So they don't face Ohio Street either. Significant detailing on building 2, of course, is this wonderful front door surround. Here's a little bit of close-up. Some of the detail has worn, but it had the name, and then these Art Deco details. And if you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen, part of that detailing fell off at some point and was replaced with just non-compatible brick infill. Other decorative details on the building include the change in brick color with a pattern at the cornice line. It also has the stone and brick detailing around the windows. There's also a detailing around the bulkhead area or water table area for the structure. And this is just giving you some, I hope you had a chance to go by, because these pictures are both good and bad, because one of the things that it shows is that the reason we're losing some of that detailing is because this parapet is flexing out. And as it flexes out, the detailing becomes detached and starts to fall, which is likely why that section above the primary door fell. So I was sold on having my sign and standing in front of the bulldozer on this property until I did the walkthrough. It looks pretty good on the outside. I didn't see anything horrible. And then when I started lining up sight lines, I realized that the walls are not plumb. And when you get into the basement, part of this looks like it might be an optical illusion, but it is not. That basement wall is actually leaning in several inches and is causing complete failure of the structural system all the way up the building. Just because I can. It had excellent detailing on the interior too. We still have some remaining original wood windows. We can have a chat about what this was originally. It was probably just some kind of nook or foam booth area, or maybe it was a decorative window, we don't know. But then we also have these little entries into the apartment units, likely for some type of delivery or air conditioning system. We haven't found any details on that. And then if you'll notice, it had these nice details on the doors. This is building 3. Some of those details that I spoke of earlier with the faux mansard roof and the balconies and the light colored brick mixed to make it look kind of washed brick, typical for properties that were being built at this time. This one's a little unique in that it did have the carports in it, and so that is building 3. Building 4, you can see very similar design, even less of a mansard roof, a faux roof, and with the balconies extending past the plane of the structure. But there again, having some of those colonial detailing. And then this is building 5. So this is standing close to the sidewalk that runs along Alumni Place. You can see that when looking at the structure, the county has identified it as a brick veneer. I did not obviously start pulling things off to see if that was true, but it is possible that the foundation has something underneath the brick. There was an addition done to the back, and then this pop-up dormer appears to be an addition. This is the other side of the building, so it's very different from what you see from the street right-of-way. At one point, there was a door here. indicating that it was separate units, top and bottom. Perhaps here you can see the addition on the rear and the addition at the top. And there's a structural report in your packet that talks about the structural deficiencies of this structure. Typically, it probably would not warrant demolition, but again, this building is not listed and it is not eligible for any financial incentives for being a listed property. And so what would usually help tip that scale for rehabilitation is not available to this property. So the applicant is proposing to demolish all 5 structures, and this is the site plan for what they would propose to go in its place. They would combine all those parcels into one lot. This is Ohio Street on the right-hand side of your screen, and the bottom area of the east, they have 2 buildings. One has its own courtyard, and then there's a courtyard between what they call the east and the west building. There's also a sidewalk that runs all the way from Ohio Street up to the university property. They gave us this nice isometric view so we can kind of wrap our heads around exactly what's going on because it is such a large project. Some things to take note are that they are proposing parking off the street. This is in the public right-of-way. We do not have head-end parking anywhere in this part of the overlay district. They are also proposing pergola structures, perhaps for some outdoor gathering spaces. Wood pergola structures are not typical for the neighborhood. Those structures can be seen also on the top decks of the 2 buildings. Also important to note, in the floor plans, they are proposing commercial on the ground floor, which depending on what type of commercial entity would be there, would likely require a special use permit from the Planning Commission and City Commission. That's not part of this review right now, but if they do have to go through the special use permit process, you'll have the opportunity to comment on that. One of the things that you should pay attention to and comment on now, however, is the ground floor design and whether that design of those commercial spaces is compatible with the overall character of the neighborhood. Other things to notice on this, other than obviously the height, are the materials and the windows. This is the east elevation, and this is one of the entrances to the parking garage off of Ohio Street. And then you'll see they have done some job of breaking up the overall mass of the structure with detailing different materials. However, in the guidelines, when it's talking about structures and new structures and how to break up that mass, it actually talks about recessing sections of the building to create a real separation of plane. Well, and just to go back, hold on. And this is a more close-up view of those commercial spaces.
Wait, what commercial spaces?
This is showing what would be the south side of the building. The primary or a primary entrance for the apartment buildings is here in the club areas. You have some storefront window systems on this elevation, large areas of lap siding, and then there's a little bit of discussion about the groove siding in your packet as well, because that is one of the materials that the guidelines call out as not appropriate for this district. And then this is just a little bit closer in to show you the lack of window detailing around any of the windows, the solid balconies in some areas, which would be perforated metal, and then also just the overall fenestration pattern. And then here again, you'll see the courtyard area between the two buildings, and then this area here, it's a little hard to tell because of the line weights, but this would be a courtyard area as well. And then this would be the north elevation of the structure facing that parking lot. And because of the height of the structure and the fact that there is no development on that parking lot, you would be able to see this from the next street over. Just kind of wanted to take a couple of photos and look at the area. This is the parking lot I was just talking about. And this is that building 1 and building 2 again, so you can kind of see you have this large green space before the buildings and a building setback. Even here at the end of Ohio Street, you do not have that green space anymore, and they had utilized most of that space as concrete for driving into the covered parking area. Then this is looking up Alumni Place. So this is one of those parking lots that I was talking about. So you're looking north now. So the structure would start from here and go all the way back. This is university property. And so the access to the university would be from Ohio Street all the way back here with that sidewalk that does have steps to achieve access to the university. So just want to briefly touch base on what your role in this process is. This is an ORIAD Neighborhood Design Guidelines review. You are reviewing the design, not the use. And sometimes the use can have an impact on the design. So when you're speaking to design details, you may want to make sure that you're clear about what design guideline you're talking about. Also, I know in your packet information, there was information about how important density is to the city and how it's part of the overall comprehensive plan. That is not something for your consideration. You are strictly looking at the design, not the use. So staff, as I mentioned, I did do the walkthrough on the structures and unfortunately agree with the assessment of the engineer and the applicant that demolition is warranted for building 2. And so if the commission approves the demolition of the existing structures, which you should have a discussion about, staff would recommend these items in addition for your discussion this evening. One specifically is the introduction of commercial designs into this residential neighborhood. The parking and the right-of-way, which is also not found in this part of the neighborhood. The lack of front yard landscaping and setback of the building. The building will be much closer to the front property line than what's typical in this area. There's a design guideline that says new structures should respond to the character of the existing structures and use them as a source of inspiration for the new design. When staff was looking at the properties in the area and then in the overlay area as a whole, I just didn't see a lot of commonalities or things that were taken as inspiration for this new design. So that's something that the commission may want to discuss. Staff also had some concerns about the materials and the window types. And then there's a design guideline that speaks to house scale elements being used to help with the overall mass. And then we discussed the breaking of the plane with the setback for the mass as well. So staff is recommending that this go to the Architectural Review Committee for the applicant to work with the committee to see if they can achieve more of the design guidelines than this project currently does. When you have a project of this scope and magnitude, to me, it's not expected that it's going to meet all the guidelines because the guidelines weren't specifically designed for something this massive and this dense and this type of structure. And so I think that discussion with the ARC can hopefully help make the structure more compatible with the overlay district so that it does mitigate some of the height and mass, and then obviously the demolition of those two structures. And so, as you know, Stan Hernley sits on the Architectural Review Committee, so the commission needs to have a discussion whether or not they would like to have, if you decide to send this to the ARC, if you would like to have staff reach out to one of our previous commissioners that was an architect to add to that committee. The other thing is the Architectural Review Committee, should you send it there, meets next week, and the applicants are the primary designers for the project aren't available that day, but one of the designers who's been working on the project is. So staff would recommend working with whoever's available that day, and if we need more time to have an additional meeting. Sorry. If we did have to have an additional meeting, we would advertise that meeting, and it would also be open to the public. So staff is recommending that you refer the whole project to the Architectural Review Committee. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Did I read on a piece of paper that one of the actions was to deny demolition requests for two of the character-defining structures?
Yes, on when I updated the item in iCompass, it did not change the action requested on the agenda page. The correct motion is on the iCompass item on that cover page.
What's iCompass?
On the cover page in your packet.
Okay.
Len, I have a question. This project went to City Commission recently, and did they make a vote on this demolition request, or is it coming to HRC first?
It's coming to HRC first. What you're recalling is that this property was rezoned to achieve a higher density to R5, and we did have a discussion here at this commission as well as far as a recommendation to the Planning Commission and City Commission that the density increase was not concerning to the Historic Resources Commission as long as the final product meets the intent of the design guidelines.
Okay.
And that rezoning was approved.
I feel like I saw in the Journal World yesterday that
Yes.
City Commission voted to deny demolition of Emory Place and 1433 Louisiana. No?
I think it was either misstated or.
It's
That's what I took from it.
it's on the, it's, the news article is on our,
Yeah, I read it, and I think it's either misstated or misinterpreted.
Yeah, what I saw in the print, okay.
As far as I'm aware, the City Commission will not see a demolition request on this project unless you deny the project and the applicant appeals. They typically don't approve or disapprove demolitions
Okay.
on private property.
I have a question for staff. Has this property been surveyed? I couldn't find it on KHRI, but
It has not, and one of the things, when I did the walkthrough, I was so passionate about the Emory Apartments that I requested a consultation from the State Historic Preservation Office, as we're allowed to do under our Certified Local Government Agreement. And so we did have the Deputy SHPO and one of the tax credit reviewers come and do the walkthrough with us. And the properties are not currently in KHRI, but the applicant has indicated that they will upload all the photos and the drawings and the reports for each property into KHRI before demolition.
Great, thank you.
Another question for you, Lynn, before the applicant comes up. In your knowledge, so this proposed project, to me, it seems very similar to the property at 1101 Indiana, here, Lawrence. That's also in the Oriad overlay district. Do you know of the conversation that happened regarding that with the design guidelines? Because that's something that doesn't necessarily fit within the Oriad design guidelines, but it exists. Can you share some light on that and the conversation that happened?
Yes, that project actually predates the design guidelines. So
Okay.
it did not go through an Oriad design guideline review.
You answered my question. All right.
Yes, I do have one more question. So on the demolition, you said you updated the recommendation, and it no longer, action requested no longer reflects anything about demolition. So,
Correct.
okay. I just want to make sure I was reading the updated one correctly.
Because it would be up to the commission to have that discussion to pair the two. So you don't have to approve or deny the demolition. You can just look at the whole project.
Okay.
If you send it to ARC for design refinement, you can still have that demolition discussion at the next meeting, but it would also be appropriate to have that discussion this evening.
Right.
That's what's confusing, that, because there can't be new construction unless there's demolition, but we're not voting on demolition? I mean, I'm very, it's not clear why it's mushed.
Well, it's all one project. Like normally, we request a replacement structure if you submit a demolition permit. So that is what they've done. They've submitted the demolition and what's going to replace it.
Okay. And so it sounds like, the way I was reading everything, it sounded like the demolition was a foregone conclusion, and it also included all the asbestos reports that they're going to get to deal with.
I'm not sure I understand.
Wasn't this one with all the asbestos
Yeah.
reports in it? Yeah.
Yes, it does. There is quite a bit of asbestos,
so
especially
when
in the.
When they're demolishing, I don't know how they demolish without letting
Well, there are.
asbestos fly in the air.
There are certain requirements
Yeah.
that they have to
A
meet for
license
that
agreement.
removal.
Right, yeah, I know there's, requirements, it's just, I can't wrap my head around that.
So there's a scenario where if you deny the demolition permit, but let's say we like the replacement structure, you can approve the replacement but deny demo. Or
No,
reverse that, and you can,
She just said no.
no, you can't separate them out. It's one project.
it is just
So
one.
it's
Yeah.
approval,
Okay,
send to the ARC, deny, approve with conditions.
So that's what I'm saying, demolition is a foregone conclusion.
No.
No,
We
that-
talk
that-
about it, but it's,
I think we kind of need to make a decision tonight, which way we're leaning. I don't know if we're actually deciding that,
yeah,
but we need to kind of have an idea. If, I guess, assuming that the final effort comes from the ARC, everyone's happy with this, then we don't need to let the lack of demolition stand in the way.
Right.
Without right now saying we're 100% for demolition. I'm not 100% for demolition, but once I see the final product and after it comes back to us, it might be one of those things, you weigh the two, and you say, unfortunately, demolition has to go on.
And that's, yeah, I think that's Lynn's point, is it's one submission and we're not voting tonight. Or we could vote tonight to approve it all. We could vote tonight to deny everything. We can't pick it apart and deny demolition but approve new construction. We can't do that. And if we do vote tonight to go to ARC, then remember when it comes back, we will be voting on the entire project, which includes demolition and new construction.
So step one, how do we feel about them? Well, step one is applicant. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Yes.
Thank you for making me step one. I appreciate that. Lance Adams, Adams Architects. I don't know how closely you looked at the drawings that were submitted, but this project is important for the city of Lawrence. So important that Hernley Architects and Adams Architects have joined together to work on this project together because we knew how important it was for the city of Lawrence. So we're trying to get as many resources together to work through this project. What you had seen at through the Planning Commission and the City Commission was an approval for rezoning this piece of property from an R4 to an R5. R5 is new to the city of Lawrence. It's very high density. When we showed them this spot, I believe planning referred to it as a bullseye for what they were thinking of for an area to be very high density. It is surrounded on 3 sides by the University of Kansas. That would be very difficult to find another piece of property in the city of Lawrence that has that on it. As we looked through that, as we met several months ago, when you guys got to kind of see initially what we were talking about before the rezoning went through, it was stated that the Oriad neighborhood guidelines were really the main item to consider as we went through these items. So if we look at that and we talk a little bit about the demolition of the existing buildings and what's going on, I don't know, do you guys have a copy of the Oriad neighborhood guidelines? Do you have that on your computer where you can follow through with me?
That's why I can't find any characteristics of the Oriad designs in your proposed design.
Sure. So, and I'd like to kind of step.
Could you point out?
Sure, absolutely.
What you are pulling from the Oriad design for this proposed design?
Right, and we will get to the design. I want to kind of step through the whole process for you. The design part will be towards the end because it's actually towards the end in the Oriad guidelines. So I'm going to step through the entire document for you. And I've based these, I'm going to tell you page numbers, and that's based off of having the PDF.
Great.
Because the guidelines themselves, the numbers are, 13.2, 13, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, so if you look at the PDF online, you see page 13 talks about existing land uses, and that's just really indicating what the current uses are. You will see in our little spot, our peninsula, I would say, surrounded by KU, you see one yellow spot. The yellow spot's that single-family house. The rest of the land around it's called high residential. So it's already, there's one little yellow square on it, if you see that on page 13.
Which yellow square?
That's not page 13, it's the map of map 2-1. And then you would have to have the PDF.
The PDF
open up,
here.
the drawings.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. Let me see if I can give you the number off of that.
You can also find it on your computer.
Yeah, well,
Here.
Yeah, that would be that's how I had planned this out, was off the computer and not off the printout, but I apologize for putting you through that part. Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, so it would be 2-2 on your printout. If you're looking at your printout, it's at the page bottom is 2-2, which is page 13 on the PDF. Right where it says Alumni Place on that map, you see a yellow square that's indicating the single residence. And then you see kind of a,
what I have, so what page?
So the page number,
page numbers down at the lower right-hand corner, or you can look at the page.
what page are you on?
What's the page
on a different
on the bottom right-hand corner you have?
So 2-2 is in the PDF. I mean, on the.
Yeah.
Are you in the packet or in the
No,
ORIAD
I'm in
design
the
guide?
ORIAD guidelines, or you can look at the ORIAD guidelines on the PDF and look at the page
Yeah,
13.
I'm trying to find it. I have the ORIAD guidelines PDF up.
Okay, go to page
And
13.
Page 13,
Should be a map of existing uses.
I see it's, page 13 of the PDF equates to page 3, and it's just the introduction.
It's page 2-2, which would be in your lower left-hand corner.
See, he's got different.
Which one are you trying to get to?
The ORIAD guidelines would be fine.
What page number is using?
2-2. Page 13. Two A, 2B. That goes into chapter 3. Let me try to search it on there.
Are you showing where it says District 2 high density, and then it's color-coded?
Yeah, but he's looking at a different map from what's on page 13. Even though I can see 15th Street
map
and Ohio Street. Well, it's Kentucky,
ORIAD.
Ohio.
All right, see if you can find it.
I mean, 'cause the map we're looking at, Phil, it shows
It's purple
this
and
is
yellow
not
for
gonna
District
be-
2.
Yeah.
purple and yellow, and it shows.
The 2010
Louisiana, Ohio.
only has 55 pages. This has 132.
2016 is
So you're
the
looking at
revised
the ORIAD
guidelines.
neighborhood plan or the design?
Yes,
guidelines?
plan.
Okay.
Okay, so.
That's it, so that's totally different.
Yeah, that's a different document.
All right, well, let's look at the neighborhood plan.
Do we have that?
But our point of discussion is on the ORIAD neighborhood design guidelines.
But the plan is part of it, it's just a separate
Yeah,
document.
the plan's
Right,
what
it's
leads
separate.
into that.
Okay. Okay, if you do a quick search for ORIAD neighborhood plan Lawrence,
Yeah?
you can find it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. Sorry about that confusion.
That's all right. So on that PDF, page 13 or page 2-2 has the existing land uses on it. Right where it says Alumni Place, you can see a yellow square. That would be where that existing home is. And then the,
Still loading?
He's pointing about that right there, yeah.
and then the rest of it's shown as the, well, it's kind of a questionable call, but I believe it's the multiple dwelling residential on it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
The grading is not equal, but I believe that's what it is.
So if you go from there, you go to page 15 on it, you'll see another map, ORIAD neighborhood plan, future land use. And you see where Alumni Place is? And it's clearly the entire section now is marked for high-density residential.
Great.
And I looked at that for a while and I thought, well, that alumni place may be over our little yellow square. So I wanted to verify that for you. So if you went all the way to page 52 of that document, you will see it clearly again that it's marked as high-density residential. So the plan already told us that that residential house was in the future not to be there. So that's what that is telling you just by what they're showing us. Okay.
And when was this map? Because the map,
2010 is when the study was done.
which is prior to the neighbor design guidelines, and it's prior to the current development code. So high density on this map is, I'm assuming,
Correct.
referring to a different level of high density than what,
But it's,
Let me clarify, because this is really a non-issue, because the Oriad neighborhood plan was updated when we looked at the rezoning. If you
Okay.
recall, the plan says high density.
Right.
The Oriad design guidelines also call this area high density. The distinguishing mark between how high that high density is not included in the Oriad design guidelines, because that's to the use piece. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Got it.
So we're not looking at the use, we're not looking at the density, we're not looking at the plan that was calling out the use. We're looking at the design guidelines. How does the project meet those guidelines?
And that's what I'm going back to my question, is what are the characteristics of
Absolutely.
the Oriad design
absolutely.
guidelines?
And I want to kind of step you through, we have to do the whole project, and I want to step you through part of that demolition process and why the house has been removed. And in our minds, it's correct to demolish that house is because even the plan shows it gone.
okay.
So I'm trying to go through those different
Can
steps
we
for you.
Skip to, I think, demo, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, speak up. But if we could skip to the design of the
Sure.
replacement structure. 'cause I think
Absolutely.
We're ready to have our conversation later about demolition, but we want to hear from you about the new construction and the project proposal.
Absolutely. So on the same document that we're looking at, if you look at page 37, and that'll be section 3.1.1.2, land use implement strategies.
Okay, so I don't have it.
Page
I have
30.
nothing to look at.
Plan-
Okay.
That's the neighborhood plan. They don't have
We don't have the
anything to do.
neighborhood
Okay, so.
Not all of us do.
We're not,
All right, that's fine. Basically, in that one, there's action steps in that, and it says create overlay districts, which was done, to provide greater latitude to certain areas generally most closely adjacent to KU, which we can't get any more adjacent than where we're at, to develop more densely by allowing increased building heights, et cetera. So that's all playing back to the R5 zoning, which allows up to a 55-foot tall building, which is what you're looking at. And then it also relates to that density. And so that is all working with the plan, meeting all those items. Okay. As you go through that, on page 38, section D, it talks about parking and working through that. And so we've addressed those parking. We can talk about those parts and pieces later. But at page 53, it talks about high density. And at 54, it'll show it. But at 53, they talk about having latitude towards the design of the denser buildings. So that's really where we have to consider two different factors. The one factor that it's a high density area, these are not going to meet that proportion of they must be taller than they are wide, right? But there are factors that we looked at. We looked at roof examples on it. If you looked at a map, which I have it, I didn't realize it wasn't in the package. If you looked at a map of the area of the Oriad neighborhood, flat roof structures are throughout the neighborhood around the perimeter of the Oriad neighborhood. Where are we? We're on the very perimeter of the Oriad neighborhood. So I think a flat roof is appropriate for the neighborhood as you look at that. The other designs we have in there are courtyards. I think Lynn used that multiple times as well. That is a good design strategy for the neighborhood as well, as providing a courtyard. If you looked at the sites we had on there previously, what you saw previously with the 5 structures and the parking, we are actually reducing the impervious surface of the area. So we're actually adding more grass to the space. So front yard, not necessarily, but we do have the courtyards, which are adding quite a bit more green space to the area itself. So we are increasing green space on the area with the design.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that you relied on the ORIAD plan rather than the design guidelines to design this building?
No, both.
We use both. I was trying to show you how we step through.
Okay, but
Getting
now
through
again, I'm asking for what are the ORIAD characteristics that are in the design?
Okay.
He's covered roofs, he's covered impervious surface and courtyards.
Right? And there's no gable.
He's,
Can I interject here? Shouldn't we let him, the applicant, make his presentation and then take public comment before we get into a big discussion?
Okay,
we're waiting on you to pay attention.
so I basically, those are our big items that we looked at on placement of the building. Be more than happy to discuss different ways to skin the building, and that would be fine to have a discussion at the ARC level. It's really about the form and placement and the density of the site is what we had focused on at this point.
So you had mentioned it does not meet the criteria that it is not taller than it is wide. It is
Right.
very wide. Is there any way to break it up more?
So if you think about the buildings on site now, how are they viewed? They're viewed off Ohio Street, right? And the buildings we've given you, if you view them off Alumni Street, you have the same exact, where they are taller than they are wide. So it's very similar. We are just adjusting it to the other street. So, yeah, the buildings on site don't meet that criteria either.
I have a question about the parking.
Uh-huh.
So on the east building, there's going to be underground parking, right? And it looks like there's about 77 spaces.
Correct.
And in addition, there's 10 spaces on Ohio Street that are, straight-in parking. And this, all said and done, this is going to be proposed 300-bed structure. One of the things that came up during the staff presentation is that front-end parking is not something you see in the ORIAD neighborhood. Is there a possibility to remove some of those front-end parking spaces, have parallel parking spaces, and then potentially increase the underground parking? So it seems like the west building doesn't have any parking spaces underneath it.
Right. So we are working on, and we do have ways to address the parking. And once again, I believe you guys are worried about the form and what's above ground. So one of the strategies is more below ground for it. But we are meeting the current development code with required parking for the space. So And on straight-in parking, I believe the HERE project has that off of Mississippi Street.
Yeah. Have you ever used it?
Yeah, when I went to Toppers.
You might consider Sawtooth just to regain some of that
Right.
setback, because like right now, it's not meeting design guideline criteria for setbacks.
Right.
So any way you could recapture some of that
Sure.
would be good, and improve the safety of backing out of those spaces.
Right, and I don't see Ohio Street as busy and significant as Mississippi Street.
Yeah,
But
correct.
it does, that straight in does exist in the neighborhood at a similar
Right.
project to this.
The difficult thing as well with angled parking on Ohio is that Alumni Drive is technically KU property, and you're not,
Right.
it's technically one way.
That's
So that
true.
would make it difficult.
Yeah, I forgot about
Alumni is
one way.
technically one way,
I forgot about the one way.
way up towards the top.
Yeah.
So it is two-way for over 3/4 of our site on that side.
I was just saying that if it was angled and you pulled out and you were heading south on Ohio, you would essentially have to, turn around to get it.
Right, in one of the parking lots that are right there, there's different options there, absolutely.
Is the mixed-use component of this negotiable? So that's a new building type being introduced.
Well, I don't
You
think
would want to
so.
speak to the design of the proposed commercial area, not whether or not the mixed use is appropriate. So not use, but design.
The use
Yeah, and I-
driving the storefront design.
So is the storefront design compatible with the residential neighborhood
Okay.
surrounding it?
And we do have something at 14th and Tennessee that's currently under construction that may be mixed use, that probably came through here for both Oriad and Historic.
Okay.
Do we have other commercial first floor uses in the district, in this area of the district?
No, you have,
Well,
I can pull up.
Nearby, but.
You have it in the mixed-use district, which is to the north of this, but not in the UC2 district. The commercial areas with commercial designs are in the mixed-use districts.
Yeah, I don't know where the wheel sets in that, and there's.
It's in the
sorts of-
mixed-use
Of
district.
commercial stuff, right on the other side of KU's property, so,
So it is an.
Yeah, it's not in the Oriad design overlay.
okay.
It's in the mixed-use district for the overlay, which I believe is District 6.
Okay.
Yeah, not two.
So this would be a new building type being proposed for this district.
For the UC2, yes.
Okay.
Can you tell us more about the materials?
Absolutely, if there's a way to bring up the elevations.
I think Kurt beat me.
Yeah. It's page 113.
Which ones?
Are there, I mean, Lynn pretty much described them. Joy, is there something that you would have a question on that I could answer for you?
Yes, she described them and talked about how typically the vertical lined panels aren't typical of the district, and the wood, are you proposing unpainted wood? I'm trying to pinpoint those things that we might
Right, so you're talking for the pergolas for the wood.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be stained, some sort of stained wood, yeah. Or it could be natural where it ages, but we'd probably want to have protectant on it.
What about the perforated metal panels for the balconies? 'Cause that doesn't exist either.
Correct. Yeah, it's just 50% open for what it is.
Well, do we want to take public comment and take a break from this, listen to public, and come back if there's additional questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment? Anybody?
Hi, my name's Kyle Thompson. I'm the chairperson of the Old Residents Association, and mostly I'm speaking for myself. I'm not opposed to this project. I think we, as he specifically said in the neighborhood plan and then the guidelines, we wanted this to be a denser area. And part of the idea is to, 300 students are going to be there rather than over on 9th Street in the more historic areas. And actually, I'm not in favor of parking minimums, but part of the idea there is that the applicant needs to needs to put enough parking in for their residents. And, he wanted to do the parking lot at 15th and Renard to address that. And so he said that they're still talking about doing more underground. Doesn't that have to be part of this proposal before it's actually approved? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody online?
I don't see anyone.
I think this one is a really difficult one because of what it is and where it is, and to get the density, it's not going to meet the ORIAD design guidelines, and when those were written, I don't think it was anticipated that there would be something like this in that location, perhaps. So, yeah, it is difficult. But I think it can meet the quality, the durability, longevity of the materials of the neighborhood, if not the form and the shape and the mass.
I think for me, I'm kind of stuck at the overall mass, scale, and volume. I think high density, absolutely. I think this probably, although meets the new development code, pushes what is compatible with the ORIAD neighborhood, especially given the intent behind the guidelines. A lot of times these bigger projects that we struggle with, it's like, is it compatible enough? Did it meet the intent of the guidelines? And I feel like this doesn't meet even the intent. I like the idea. I just don't know if ARC is going to be able to break up that overall mass and volume enough to be compatible enough that it meets the intent of the guidelines.
I would agree with that. Because I'm not seeing any characteristics whatsoever. It's like placing the New Hampshire lofts at the edge of ORIAD. It's, you know, in terms of, but it's even bigger than New Hampshire laws, from what I can see. It's 6 stories, 300 units.
Yeah, I think it's hard to imagine the scale in the context, and it would have been great to see a drawing that the axon or an aerial view, 3D kind of shot on, superimposed onto the street view or within the context. So you could see kind of the height of the other buildings and how far they are or how close they are and how these buildings step down the hill. It is difficult to imagine.
Yeah. To me, my knee-jerk reaction is it belongs on Daisy Hill, not on the other side of campus.
Or belongs in West Campus, where all the modern.
So staff's idea about working with the Architectural Review Committee was what we typically do in those meetings, for those who have not been in them before, is we start with the staff report, and we go through, and when we get to a guideline, for example, the first one that the staff report says it doesn't meet is the front walk should be at least 36 inches.
Yep.
And so we talk about that. Does it work? Can we make it work with this design? And then we go to the next one, and then we go to the next one.
My list.
The great thing about working in that collaborative spirit is that the architect gets the benefit of staff and other architects' experience with the design guidelines. I think staff has a recognition that it can't meet all of them, but if the mass is broken up according to the guidelines, if the materials are shifted, if there are some of those house scale elements that we talked about, those types of things, if there are ways to incorporate those things, then when it comes back, you'll be looking at something different, and it may be a different conversation. Then at that point, if you don't think it meets the intent, then that would be the conversation. But staff would recommend that you at least give the applicant that opportunity to work with the ARC.
Because, you know, like you're saying, Joy, to your point, Joy, I'm trying to imagine, or I can't visualize what the Oriad neighbors themselves are going to see from their perspectives around, you know, surrounding this 6-story,
Absolutely. Yeah.
major two courtyards with commercial at the bottom, with gobs of amenities. It's like a KU union, you know, self-contained KU union in some ways, with housing.
Yeah, remember there are scholarship halls to the west of this site that are 4 stories, I think, or 5. I think they're 4. Yeah. Therefore, with pitched roofs. So I know it's not in the Oriad design guidelines, but that gives you an idea.
And that may be one of the things that the applicant could work with the Architectural Review Committee to respond with some different types of visualization to help the commission and the public have a better idea of the scope and the size in the setting. So that is certainly something that we can work with them on.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would help us understand it within its context and not just elevations of its own structure. It's not that hard to.
I think until we see the next round through the ARC, see what, I don't want to say improvements, but what changes can be made. It's kind of hard to visualize how it's going to impact the neighborhood at this point.
Yeah.
As it sits right now, I think would be a significant detriment to the neighborhood. But I don't think, we're not keeping it that way. We're going through a revision process, almost as if this is the first draft. And we're going to go through and let more people look at it and see where we end up.
Well, does that mean, well, if it's first draft, I'm interested in the second draft, but I'm hoping we can have a third and fourth draft if needed. Because again, I'm very concerned about the ORIAD characteristics.
And I think that will be taken to the ARC, that concern.
Right.
And be specifically addressed. There's got to be a way to meet somewhere in the middle.
And ARC is fantastic at doing that. And I think the applicant's willing to go through that process. Yes? No? Okay, yes. So what we typically do is also, like what Lynn said, go through the staff report and identify the things that we want ARC to focus on during that meeting, so we are much closer to a final draft next time we see it.
There are some items mentioned in your staff report.
Yeah, and I've got
at the very end.
long
That's
list
great.
of-
And then there's some things on the slide also.
Yep.
That you can make sure that the group discusses.
So my first one is A4, the front walking path. Lynn already mentioned that. B1.II, that's the combination of lots. You guys don't need to look at that. B4C is the parking, and how compatible the parking situation is, if we can somehow revise that to increase some of the setbacks. Thankfully, the parking garage is underground, and we don't have a huge parking tower that we're also dealing with. So at least that's going in the right direction. I think the biggest things for me are under 4C, architectural guidelines. C1, recognize and respect the historic elements and patterns of the existing district. C2B, massing and form. C4, roofs. I think that's going to be addressed when you start playing with the breaking up of the massing and form. C5, the porches, and maintain that pedestrian neighborly list, which plays into the sense of house scale, at least at that pedestrian level, which should also address the storefronts to be more pedestrian friendly and less 5/1 feeling. That makes sense. C6, the fenestration patterns. I saw there were a few double hung, but most of it looks like that kind of preset tripartite, like weird blocky, what is that called? Oh, I don't know what you call it, but it's on page 16. It's actually called out specifically in the staff report under C6 fenestration. There's a picture of it. Perhaps a different window type. So architectural detailing to be more in line with the neighborhood. I think that never mind, that falls under C1. In addition to, let's see here, I talked about that, the design of these structures. Yep, and this, materials and windows. Personally, I don't have anything against the clay. I don't know how everybody else feels. But there is that material sheet G0.03. Definitely look at the metal, perforated metal panels for the balcony railings. That's something that might be more compatible with the neighborhood.
So when you said clay, are you talking about the building entry element and the secondary element where it shows a picture of the brick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the building entry clay block, I actually don't have any qualms with that. Somebody else speak up, but I'm not opposed to glass railings either. So, but look at the cement board, the horizontal V groove, cement board, the vertical V groove. So the horizontal and vertical V groove.
I don't see the vertical on the submission. Is it on this page?
It's on the G0.03 material sheet. It's the primary element, vertical V groove. It's the White House on the far right.
Okay.
Are there other elements that I'm missing? Because that can't be all of them.
I had a few on my list, mostly overlapping with yours. Let me get back to it. I was trying to note all your numbers you were throwing out.
Sidewalks are,
We already got that one,
got it,
A4.
okay. So concrete or brick?
I'm more worried about the width than the material on that. I think whatever's going to be more, stand the test of time.
Yeah, it was really the durability and longevity of the products, the materials that I wanted to talk more about in the ARC, as well as the look of them and the compatibility with the district. And the reason why the stair tower has a sloped roof. I don't know, that might be just a red herring, but.
Yeah, and I noticed on the site plan, it looks like the Ohio Street elevation, is it Ohio? No, it's the 15th Street. It's rounded? Or is that the sidewalk? On the site plan, what is this, page 94 of the PDF?
Oh, I took that as this, not the building.
Or that might be that entertainment area. Yeah, the building's square, never mind. So, drawings that show the building within context of what's around it, plus the list of things to look at. Anybody else have carrots they want to throw out there?
No.
So, well, maybe this is a question for you, Lynn. How did you make the decision on some of these guidelines that particular guidelines did not apply to this project?
Could you give me?
Well, I'm just skimming through this right now. I'm because I didn't print it out and study it as an architect.
Well, for example.
But I'm looking
let's see.
at like B, development of the lot and site guidelines. I'm going down to, there are no porches. The open space, B4 open space does not apply. Lots does not apply. Parking configuration does not apply. Bumper blocks not specified in application. New curb cuts from the street shall not be permitted. Meets the guideline. Does
Okay,
not-
so for example, for B4A, open space, it says there shall be a minimum of 15 feet of open space between the principal structure and an accessory structure or parking pad. That guideline does not apply because there is no accessory structure as part of this project. There is no proposed parking pad as part of this project.
Right,
So
because
that
the
guideline doesn't apply.
Right, because the building's not designed for this.
Right, that's why when you go through, if
Yeah.
if that guideline doesn't apply, then you don't use it as part of your overall evaluation.
You know, I just feel like we're dealing with apples and oranges here. You know, that there's an apple and then there's this orange and we're trying to put it in a
Well,
grocery store.
there are specific guidelines for this district.
Yes.
And for high-density residential development. I mean, as I mentioned, when we went through the ORIAD plan and the ORIAD design guidelines, we recognized high density for this area. There are graphics in the ORIAD design guidelines. There are specific guidelines for the high density that you should try to achieve to be more compatible with the neighborhood while meeting your density request. So it's not, I mean, there are guidelines for high density development.
So we want to look at the things that it does not meet. For example, C2, massing and form. The proportions of the front facade shall be taller than it is wide. So instead of looking at the ones that don't apply, we want.
Right, I'm looking at the red as well. Yeah,
And so, for example, in the overall neighborhood design guidelines, it speaks to it should be taller than it is wide. When you're in the specific standards for this district, instead it speaks to the facade of large buildings shall be no greater than 40 feet wide, after which the building shall be set back a distance of at least 8 feet. So in this guideline, they're telling you what's acceptable to break up a long linear mass in this district in the overlay.
go ahead.
Okay. Do we want to discuss demolition at all? Or just wait
So, yeah, it's
until?
pointless.
Yeah, wait until next, okay. I just want to make sure, like, if you guys want to talk about something tonight.
No, I'm good.
Get it out there, okay.
And Stan cannot be an architectural review committee member because he's working on the project. Who can we?
At the beginning of the meeting, as part of the presentation, I suggested that you would have a couple of options if you decide to send this to the ARC. One would be not to have the second architect, and it would just be you, Joy. The other would be for staff to identify and find one of the previous architects that has served on the HRC to see if they would be willing to serve just on this review committee.
I mean, I believe it's crucial to have at least a second
Yeah,
architect.
I don't want to do that to Joy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I figured we would take care of that after we vote, like, to give direction to staff to find a previous serving architect that can be there at the time that you guys pick. Okay. And hopefully it's just the one meeting. It's next week, but we'll see. Okay. So does our motion need to include the specific element? No, okay. Good, so does anybody have a motion?
I'll let you do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll never figure it out.
Okay, all right. I move to refer the project to the ARC to identify possible design options that may assist the project in meeting the overall intent of the development and design standards in the ORIAD Neighborhood Design Guidelines and for the ORIAD Neighborhood Design Overlay District, with specific emphasis on all the items identified in the staff report as that it doesn't meet, and as discussed.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Nope, that's fine. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan, aye, with one abstention, so it's 501. And also recommend or direct staff to find that other architect for the ARC that has previously served their volunteer time to the ARC.
And then,
That's it.
yes, and could you also provide us with a link to the ORIAD design? Or
It's in the staff
plan-
report.
The ORIAD plan.
Here, I'll send it to you right now.
That
Here.
we don't have.
Here, I'm emailing it to you right now.
Thank you.
And then just for everyone's benefit, the ARC meetings are now posted at the first of the year. So that meeting date is already scheduled, and it will be March 26th at noon in the Planning and Development Services Conference Room. That meeting is open to the public, but the public does not have the opportunity to participate. When this comes back before you, if it's next month or the month after, then you will have an action summary from that meeting in your packet information.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing the revised drawings and a couple new ones. All right, miscellaneous items.
I had a question about when we're going to be revisiting the Watson Park with additional information.
Yes, hold on just a second. Let me get Commissioner Hernley.
Is he still awake?
He's there, yeah. Heck, he could be reading a book.
Welcome back.
So Commissioner Klein, that item was deferred for additional information, and it depends on when the applicant and staff can get that additional information requested to get it back on the agenda. So part of that is on the applicant's time schedule to get that back to you.
Okay, so you're saying the applicant will be providing more information?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There was a couple University Place emails that were sent to the commission. What's the status on those?
So I noticed that there were several emails sent last week from members of the University Place Neighborhood Association concerned about the demolition moratorium expiring and next steps, and then some information in the report that was submitted to the HRC in the city. So first, just to clarify, the HRC cannot issue a demolition moratorium. Any request for a moratorium for demolition in the neighborhood would need to be made to the city commission, and the city commission will make that determination. If they want the Historic Resources Commission to advise them on that, they will ask. And so at this time, it is not within your purview to make any recommendation or decision on a moratorium request.
So have those letter writers been informed of that they need to go to
Yes.
this? Okay.
The other question was about siding, and I also answered this question for them. It is something that staff and the State Historic Preservation Office have been in conversation about. We do have a meeting we're trying to set up with the people who did the report, and things that we can look at. Are there alternatives, like submitting a nomination under criterion A for development instead of architecture? Would that, the state does have a siding policy. Some properties can still be eligible to a historic district even with replacement siding.
Okay.
So then how many of those, if we're looking at it not for its architecture, how does that change the mix? And so we're looking at the siding and the windows and overall suggestions from the report with the State Historic Preservation Office. And we will, once we have that meeting, we'll be able to give you an update.
Fantastic.
And it's a future project, never mind. Or in process, I guess.
Are there any other miscellaneous items? All right. Then I guess the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I miss having that gavel.
Need a gavel. Or a shoe.